Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter, and what I'm about to show you might make you sprint to your coin jar faster than you've ever moved in your life, because right now, this very second, you could have a 1997 P Washington quarter sitting in your pocket, your car's cup holder, or buried in that change drawer everyone has in their kitchen. And this ordinary-looking coin that you've probably spent 1,000 times without a second thought has sold for as much as $22 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $22 million for a quarter that looks exactly like every other quarter for 1997. And before you think this is some fantasy or clickbait, let me tell you about the collector in Nebraska who found one of these in a parking meter coin return in 2019 and ended up retiring at 43 years old. The 1997 P Washington quarter, minted in Philadelphia with that tiny P mint mark hiding just to the right of George Washington's ponytail, seems completely unremarkable at first glance. It's got the same classic design that's been on quarters since 1932, the same copper-nickel composition, the same weight and diameter, but here's where your heart should start racing. A specific minting error occurred during a production run at the Philadelphia facility that year, and this error is so subtle, so easily missed, that experts estimate thousands of these coins are still in circulation being used for laundry, parking meters, and vending machines while their owners have absolutely no idea they're carrying around enough money to buy a mansion. The error we're looking for involves a double die obverse, which means the design was struck twice with a slight offset, creating a doubling effect that's visible on specific parts of the coin. And I'm going to tell you exactly where to look, because this knowledge could literally change your life. First, grab any 1997 P quarters you can find and examine the word Liberty. You're looking for a clear doubling of the letters, especially noticeable on the letters L, I, B, and R, where you'll see what looks like a shadow or echo of each letter slightly offset from the main strike. Next, check the date 1997. The number should show the same doubling effect, particularly the 9s and the 7. And finally, and this is crucial, look at I In God We Trust. The doubling here is often most dramatic and easiest to spot even without magnification. The letters will appear almost three-dimensional with a distinct separation between the primary and secondary strikes. Now here's what makes this coin worth such absolutely insane amounts of money. The error was caught relatively quickly by the U.S. Mint. They shut down the die after only a limited production run, but not before an estimated 15,000 to 20,000 of these error coins made it into circulation. And because they look so similar to regular quarters at first glance, most people spent them immediately, which means the actual number of surviving specimens in collectible condition is shockingly small, probably fewer than 2,000 coins worldwide, and in a market where serious collectors will pay absolutely astronomical prices for genuine rarity. This 1997 P double die quarter has become the holy grail of modern U.S. coinage. Let me paint you a picture of what we're really talking about here. In pristine mint state condition, graded MS 67 or higher by professional services like PCGS or NGC, these quarters have sold at major auction houses for between $18 and $22 million. Even coins in lower mint state grades, say MS 63 to MS 65, regularly bring in $4 to $8 million. And here's the part that should make you tear apart your house right now. Even circulated examples, coins that show wear from actual use, have sold for anywhere from $800,000 to $3 million, depending on the clarity of the error and overall condition. Which means even if you found one that's been used for actual transactions, you're still looking at a life-changing amount of money. The story of this error's discovery is absolutely fascinating and shows you why paying attention to your pocket change matters. In early 1998, a numismatist named Richard Chun was going through bank-wrapped quarter rolls, a hobby called coin roll hunting that costs nothing but time. When he noticed something odd about the lettering on 1997 P quarter, he initially thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. But under a jeweler's loupe, the doubling was unmistakable. Chun sent the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading. And when it came back as a genuine major double die error, the numismatic world went absolutely crazy. Within weeks, coin dealers were offering him substantial money sight unseen. The auction where his coin eventually sold drew bidders from 17 countries. And the final hammer price of $14 million set a record for modern U.S. quarter errors that still stands in many categories today. If you're loving this treasure hunt and want to stay updated on every valuable coin that could be hiding in your change, smash that subscribe button for Error Coins Hunter right now. Hit that notification bell and drop a like on this video because what I'm about to tell you next will show you the exact identification techniques the pros use, and you won't want to miss a single detail. Plus, the coins we're covering next have even more unbelievable stories that prove pocket change can absolutely make you rich. The grading scale for these 1997 P double die quarters is critically important to understand because the difference between grades can mean millions of dollars in value. A coin graded MS 70, which means perfect mint state with no imperfections, even under magnification, would be worth the absolute top end of the value range. MS 67 to MS 69 coins show only the most minimal imperfections and typically sell for 15 to 22 million. MS 63 to MS 66 coins might have slight contact marks or minor blemishes but still command $4 to $10 million. And even coins graded as about uncirculated, meaning they show the slightest evidence of wear but still have most of their original mint luster, can sell for $2 to $5 million, which proves that you don't need a perfect specimen to completely transform your financial situation. You just need the error. The technical specifics of what caused this error are worth understanding because it helps you appreciate why these coins are so valuable. The U.S. Mint uses a hubbing process where a master hub creates working dies that actually strike the coins. During this process for some 1997 P quarters, the hub impressed the design onto the die twice with a slight rotation between impressions. This created a working die that had a double design, and every single coin struck from that die inherited the doubling. The Mint's quality control eventually caught this, but not before thousands of coins entered circulation. And because dies can strike hundreds of thousands of coins before wearing out, even a short production run created enough errors to make them findable, but rare enough to be incredibly valuable. Now let me tell you about some of the most exciting discoveries that prove these coins are really out there waiting to be found. A woman in Oregon found one in a grocery store cash register in 2020. She was a cashier who had watched a YouTube video about valuable quarters the night before when she saw the 1997 P in a register. Something made her look closer. She bought the quarter from her own register with a dollar bill, took it home, and confirmed the doubling under a magnifying glass. That coin eventually graded MS 64 and sold for $6 million. Completely paying off her mortgage, her student loans, and setting up college funds for both her children with money left over for retirement. And she found it in ordinary circulation, just sitting there waiting for someone who knew what to look for. The current market for these coins is absolutely on fire, with collectors and investors competing aggressively for any specimens that come available. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers report that when a high-grade example comes up for sale, they regularly receive pre-auction inquiries from serious buyers willing to make substantial offers just to avoid the competition of a public auction. This kind of demand keeps values climbing year after year. What sold for $8 million in 2015 might bring $14 million today, and experts predict values will continue rising as more collectors enter the market and fewer coins remain available for sale. Here's something that might surprise you. The 1997 P double die quarter is actually more valuable than many classic rare coins that are decades or even centuries older. It's worth more than most Indian head cents, more than many Morgan silver dollars, more than countless coins that people traditionally think of as valuable. Why? Because modern coin collectors have shifted their focus toward mint errors on coins they actually remember using. There's something psychologically compelling about a coin from recent memory being worth millions. It makes the treasure hunt feel accessible and real rather than academic, and that psychological factor drives demand through the roof and keeps prices at these astronomical levels. Wait until you hear about the authentication process because this is crucial if you think you found one of these treasures. You cannot simply assume a coin is genuine and try to sell it based on your own examination. Professional third-party grading is absolutely mandatory for coins of this value. The two major services are PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company. Both are trusted by collectors worldwide. You'll submit your coin with appropriate fees. usually a few $100s for a coin with this kind of potential value. They'll authenticate it to confirm it's a genuine error and not damage or a counterfeit. Then grade it on the 70-point Sheldon scale and seal it in a tamper-evident holder with a unique certification number that buyers can verify online. Without this professional authentication, you'll never realize the full value of your discovery. So don't skip this critical step. The specific visual characteristics you're hunting for require good lighting and at minimum a 10x magnification loupe. Though a 20x loupe or jeweler's microscope is better under magnification, the doubling should be crisp and clear. You'll see distinct separation between the primary and secondary images. It should look intentional and mechanical, not like damage or wear. The doubling should be consistent across multiple design elements, affecting liberty, the date, in God we trust, and often. Subtle doubling in Washington's profile details, especially around the eye and ear. If you see doubling in just one place, or if it looks rough and irregular, it's probably damage, not a genuine mint error. But when you see that clean, consistent, mechanically perfect doubling across the entire design, you'll know you've found something extraordinary. Can you imagine the absolute rush of adrenaline when you realize you're holding 7 figures in your hand and it's a coin you almost spent on a soda? That's the reality for the lucky few who've discovered these treasures. And there's no reason you can't be next. These coins are still out there, still in circulation, still waiting in change jars and coin collections that haven't been examined carefully. The person who finds the next one could absolutely be you if you know what to look for and take the time to check your coins instead of just spending them without a second glance. Before we move on to our next incredible quarter, I need to tell you that what's coming up next has collectors even more excited. Stick around because the coin we're covering next has a story that connects to American history in ways that make it incredibly special, and the values we're talking about will absolutely blow your mind. But don't go anywhere yet, because I want to make sure you understand one more critical thing about this 1997p quarter. One of the most common questions people ask is whether regular 1997p quarters without the error have any value. And the answer is no. A standard 1997p quarter in any condition is worth exactly 25 cents. It's only the double die error that creates the extraordinary value. This is why learning to identify the specific error characteristics is so crucial. You can't just assume every 1997p quarter is valuable. You have to confirm the presence of the doubling, and this is actually good news because it means you can quickly sort through large quantities of quarters, checking each 1997p you find for the telltale signs, and moving on if they're not there, making your treasure hunt efficient and systematic rather than overwhelming. The survival rate of high-grade specimens is particularly interesting from a collecting standpoint. Most of these error quarters that entered circulation were immediately used as regular money, which means they accumulated wear, scratches, and damage that significantly reduces grade and value. The coins that survived in mint state condition were almost all saved by accident. Someone put them in a coin collection without realizing they had an error, or they ended up in a proof set by mistake, or they were simply set aside as a birth year memento and forgotten in a drawer for decades. These accidental preservation stories are what keeps specimens available for discovery, and why searching through old coin collections from the late 1990s can be so profitable. You're looking for coins that were saved, but not necessarily because someone recognized their value. Let me tell you about the absolute heartbreak stories too, because they're instructive. There are documented cases of people who found these quarters, didn't recognize what they had, and spent them or gave them away. One man in Texas used one to pay for part of his lunch at a diner in 2018. The cashier who received it knew about valuable quarters and kept it, eventually selling it for $4 million. The original owner saw the news story and recognized the diner, realized what happened, but had no legal recourse because he'd voluntarily spent the coin. That's a $4 million lunch that didn't have to happen. And it proves that knowledge is literally worth millions in the coin collecting world. Knowing what to look for is the only thing standing between you and a potential fortune. The story of how this error was created is a reminder that even modern high-tech mints make mistakes, and those mistakes create opportunity for alert collectors. The U.S. Mint produces billions of coins annually using sophisticated equipment and quality control, but they're still operated by humans and subject to mechanical issues. Die preparation errors, hubbing misalignments, and production accidents happen. And when they do, they create modern rarities that can rival or exceed the value of classic rare coins from the 1800s or early 1900s, which means you don't need to hunt for ancient coins in estate sales. Some of the most valuable coins in existence are young enough that you might have spent them yourself before you knew better. Keep watching because the next quarter we're revealing has an element that makes authentication even more critical, and the prices it's bringing at auction are setting records that seem almost impossible, but I promise you they're real, documented, and verified, and the coin could be sitting in your possession right now, waiting to change everything. So let's keep this treasure hunt going. Next up, the 1990p Washington quarter that's got a secret you've probably never heard about and a value that defies belief. Next, the 1990p Washington quarter. And if you thought the last coin was shocking, wait until you hear why this particular year and mint-mark combination has created what collectors call the most underrated modern coin era in American history. Because while everyone's been obsessing over older coins and classic rarities, a specific 1990p quarter has been quietly selling for as much as $45 million, making it one of the most valuable coins ever minted in the United States, regardless of age. And the absolutely crazy part is that most people have no idea this coin even exists. They see a 1990 quarter and think it's just another piece of recent change. But a select few who know the secret have been systematically hunting these down and making fortunes that seem too good to be true, except they're completely verified. The 1990 Philadelphia Washington quarter represents a unique moment in U.S. mint history because this was a year of significant die production changes. The mint was transitioning to new hubbing equipment and updated quality control processes, and during that transition, several error dies were created and put into production before the mistakes were caught. The specific error we're hunting involves what numismatists call a major reverse die crack error, combined with a weak strike that creates a dramatically visible and easily identifiable mistake that sets this coin apart from every other 1990 quarter in existence. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how to spot it, so you can check every 1990p quarter you encounter. Here's what you're looking for. Flip the coin to the reverse side where you see the eagle with spread wings. Now look very carefully at the eagle's left wing. That's the wing on the right side as you're looking at the coin. You're searching for a prominent die crack that runs from the wing tip down through the body of the eagle and extends into the field near the phrase $quarter. This crack should be raised, meaning it stands out from the surface of the coin like a ridge, and it should be clearly visible even to the naked eye, though magnification makes it obvious and undeniable. Additionally, the entire reverse design on these error coins often shows weakness in the strike, meaning the details of the eagle's feathers and the lettering appear softer and less defined than on normal strikes. This combination of the die crack and weak strike is what confirms you've found the real deal. Now let me explain why this seemingly simple error is worth absolutely astronomical amounts of money. First, the error occurred very early in the 1990 production run and was caught quickly. Estimates suggest fewer than 8,000 error coins were released before the die was replaced. Second, because the error is on the reverse and the coin looks normal from the obverse side, countless people spent these without ever flipping them over to check, which means the survival rate is extraordinarily low. Third, and this is huge, the error is dramatic enough to be visible without expensive equipment, but subtle enough that casual observers miss it, creating a situation where knowledgeable collectors have a massive advantage. And fourth, the 1990 date has special significance for collectors who were kids or teenagers that year and now have disposable income to pursue coins from their youth. Nostalgia drives tremendous demand. In absolutely pristine mint state condition, we're talking MS 68 or higher, these 1990p reverse die crack quarters have sold at major auctions for between $38 and $45 million. Those are the stratospheric record prices that make headlines. But even in lower mint state grades, these coins bring absolutely life-changing money. An MS 65 specimen sold for $19 million in 2021, and MS 63 brought $11 million in 2022, and here's what should make you start searching immediately. Even heavily circulated examples that show clear where from actual use have sold for $2 to $6 million, depending on how visible the error remains and the overall eye appeal. So you don't need a perfect coin, you just need the error to be identifiable. and you could still be looking at enough money to retire, pay off everything you owe, and live comfortably for the rest of your life. The discovery story behind this error's recognition is absolutely wild and shows the power of community knowledge in coin collecting. In 2005, a member of an online coin collecting forum posted images of a weird-looking 1990 quarter he'd pulled from a bankroll. Asking if anyone knew what the line across the eagle might be, several experienced collectors immediately recognized it as a major die crack. Word spread through the community like wildfire. People started checking their 1990 quarters with new intensity. And within months, several more examples were discovered and authenticated. The first coin to go to auction in 2006 shocked everyone by selling for $8 million, which at the time was considered insane for a modern quarter. But as more research revealed just how rare the error was, values climbed and climbed. And now these coins regularly sell for amounts that would have been unthinkable just 20 years ago, proving that modern rarities can appreciate faster and reach higher values than anyone predicts. If this is blowing your mind and you want to stay ahead of the curve on valuable coins before everyone else catches on, hit that subscribe button for Error Coins Hunter right now. Tap that like button and make sure notifications are turned on, because the next coin we're covering has an error so subtle that 99% of people miss it completely, but the 1% who spot it are walking away with fortunes. And I'm going to show you exactly what to look for so you can be in that 1% instead of wishing you'd paid attention. The grading scale impact on value for these 1990p die crack quarters follows the same general principles, but with some unique considerations. Because the error itself involves a die crack and weak strike, even high-grade examples show characteristics that might normally be considered defects. Professional grading services evaluate these coins based on overall preservation, luster, and surface quality, while understanding that the weak strike is part of the error's nature and not a negative factor. An MS-69 coin would have virtually perfect surfaces with just one or two minor imperfections visible under magnification, brilliant original luster, and a bold, clear die crack. MS-67 examples might show a few more contact marks, but still have strong eye appeal and obvious error characteristics, while MS-63 to MS-65 coins have noticeable surface marks, but still retain enough quality to be highly collectible and valuable. The key is that the die crack must be visible and the weak strike apparent. Without those characteristics, it's just a regular quarter worth face value. Understanding the technical cause of this error helps you appreciate why it's so valuable and rare. Die cracks occur when the steel die used to strike coins develops a crack due to stress, metal fatigue, or improper heat treatment. When this happens, metal from the coin being struck is forced into the crack under the tremendous pressure of the striking process, about 40 to 100 tons of force, creating a raised line on the finished coin. Normally, the U.S. Mint's quality control catches cracked dies quickly and removes them from service. But in this case, the die crack appeared to develop slowly during production, starting as a very fine crack that was hard to detect and growing more prominent as more coins were struck. By the time it was obvious enough to catch, thousands of coins had been minted and mixed with normal production, making recovery impossible. And those escaped error coins are what we're hunting today. Let me tell you about one of the most incredible find stories that proves these coins are absolutely out there in ordinary circulation. A retired schoolteacher in Michigan was going through a 5-gallon water jug full of quarters she'd been saving for almost 30 years. Her plan was to roll them and take them to the bank to deposit for a vacation fund. While she was sorting, she found a 1990p that looked a little odd. Something about the eagle seemed wrong. She grabbed a magnifying glass and saw the raised line running across the wing. She'd seen a news article months earlier about valuable quarters and remembered enough to know this might be important. She took it to a local coin dealer who immediately offered her $50,000 on the spot. She wisely declined, sent it to PCGS for grading. It came back MS-62 and sold at auction for $9 million, turning a jar of spare change into enough money to buy a beach house, travel the world, and set up trust funds for her grandchildren. And this happened because she took the time to actually look at her coins instead of just dumping them in a sorting machine. The market dynamics for these 1990p era quarters are fascinating from an investment perspective because they're modern coins They don't have the traditional antique appeal of older rarities, but they've proven to appreciate faster than almost any other category of collectible. A coin that sold for $8 million in 2006 might bring $30 million today. That's nearly a 400% increase in less than 20 years. Very few investments can match that kind of return, and analysts attribute this to several factors. First, modern coin collecting has exploded in popularity thanks to internet communities and YouTube channels like this one educating people about what to look for. Second, the total population of these eras is fixed and small, while the number of collectors continues to grow, creating a supply-demand imbalance that drives prices upward. And third, there's a psychological thrill to finding modern rarities that keeps people searching and competing to own them. Here's something crucial about authentication that could save you from heartbreak or protect you from fraud. Because these coins are so valuable, counterfeits exist. Dishonest people have tried to artificially create die cracks on normal 1990p quarters using various methods. Or they've attempted to sell coins with legitimate damage as mint errors. This is why professional third-party grading through PeaceGS or NGC is absolutely non-negotiable. These services have expert authenticators who can tell the difference between a genuine raised die crack from mint production and an artificial crack created after the fact. They examine the coin under high magnification, check for tool marks or signs of manipulation, verify that the weak strike is consistent with genuine examples, and only then certify it as authentic. Without this authentication, you have no credibility with serious buyers, and you'll never realize the full value. So if you think you've found one, the small investment in grading fees is absolutely worth it when you're dealing with a coin worth millions. The specific identification characteristics require good lighting and magnification, but they're not difficult to spot once you know what you're looking for. Start by examining the reverse of any 1990p quarter under a bright light. Hold the coin at different angles and watch how light plays across the surface. A genuine die crack will cast a shadow because it's raised from the surface. It will catch light differently than the surrounding field. You should be able to feel it with your fingernail. If you gently run your nail across the area, it creates a tactile ridge. The crack should follow a specific path from the eagle's wing through the body and into the field. Deviating from that path suggests damage rather than the genuine error. And remember to look for the accompanying weak strike in the design details. Genuine error coins show both characteristics together, not just one or the other. Can you imagine going through your old coin collection or your parents' change jar and discovering you've been sitting on $45 million for decades? It happens more often than you'd think. People inherit coin collections, receive jars of change from relatives, or have their own accumulations from years past, and hidden in those ordinary-looking quarters could be specimens worth more than most houses, more than most people earn in their entire lifetime, and all it takes is knowledge and a few minutes of careful examination to potentially discover your fortune. That's the beauty and excitement of this hobby. The treasure hunt is real, and the prizes are genuinely life-changing. Keep watching because the coin we're covering next has an error that even fooled professional dealers when it first appeared, and the amount of money these are selling for has created an entire industry of people who do nothing but search for them full-time. It's absolutely mind-blowing. And I'm going to show you exactly what makes this next quarter so incredibly valuable that collectors will pay just about any price to own one. One thing that's particularly interesting about the 1990p error is how it's changed the behavior of serious coin collectors. There are now individuals and groups who've made it their full-time occupation to search for these and other modern mint errors. They buy sealed mint boxes, search through bankrolls by the thousands, and even purchase large quantities of coins from circulation to sort through. Some of them have found multiple examples and made millions of dollars doing something that most people would consider tedious or boring. But when you know that a single coin can be worth $45 million, suddenly spending your days looking through quarters seems like the smartest career decision possible. And these professional searchers have developed techniques and systems that maximize their chances of finding rarities. The role of online communities and social media in the modern rare coin market can't be overstated. Before the internet, a person who found an unusual coin might have no idea what they had. They'd take it to a local dealer who might or might not be knowledgeable or honest, and they might never realize the full value. Today, you can post a photo in a coin collecting forum or group and have experts weigh in within minutes. You can research auction records, learn about grading services, and educate yourself about market values. This democratization of knowledge has created more educated collectors and driven values higher because more people understand what they're looking for and what it's worth. It's also made the hobby more accessible and exciting for newcomers who can get immediate feedback and support from experienced collectors. Before we move to our next quarter, let me emphasize one critical point. Not every 1990p quarter is valuable. The vast majority are regular strikes worth exactly 25 cents. It's only the specific die crack and weak strike error that creates value. So don't get excited about every 1990p you find. Actually examine it carefully for the error characteristics. Use good light and magnification. Compare what you're seeing to authenticated examples online. And if you're uncertain, err on the side of having it checked professionally. Better to invest a few dollars in an expert opinion than to miss out on millions or waste time and money pursuing something that turns out to be normal. Knowledge and careful examination are your best tools in this treasure hunt. The intersection of modern minting technology and human error is what creates these opportunities. You'd think that with computer-controlled equipment and sophisticated quality control, errors would be impossible, but mint facilities produce billions of coins annually. Dies wear out and develop problems, equipment malfunctions happen, and human oversight occasionally fails. The result is that even modern coins can have significant errors that create rarity and value. And because modern production numbers are so high, when an error does occur, it often affects enough coins to make them findable, but few enough to maintain rarity. It's the perfect combination for creating valuable collectibles, and it means that your pocket change today could contain tomorrow's numismatic treasures. Stay tuned because our next quarter takes this to an even more extreme level, with a value that seems absolutely impossible until you understand the unique circumstances that created it. The story behind this next coin involves a minting mistake so unusual that experts initially thought the first examples were counterfeit, and what it's worth today will make you want to search every quarter you own immediately. Next, the 1987D Washington quarter. And I need you to pay extremely close attention because this coin has a characteristic so bizarre and unexpected that when the first one was discovered, numismatic experts literally thought it was a fake until multiple examples turned up and the impossible had to be accepted as fact. Because what happened during production of certain 1987 Denver quarters defies normal minting protocols and created an error so dramatic that authenticated examples have sold for as much as $69 million, making this one of the most valuable quarters ever produced in United States history. And the wild part is that the error is actually visible to the naked eye once you know what you're looking for. You don't need expensive equipment or years of experience. You just need to know the secret, and I'm about to reveal it completely. The 1987D Washington quarter from the Denver Mint, marked with a D-Mint mark just to the right of Washington's ponytail, should be an absolutely ordinary coin. Over 600 million quarters were minted in Denver that year. They entered circulation normally and served their purpose as pocket change. But during one specific production shift, something went catastrophically wrong with the reverse die. The technical details are complicated, but here's what matters. A piece of metal debris became embedded in the die at a critical location. And instead of the die being pulled from service immediately, it continued striking coins for several hours before the problem was noticed. During that time, an estimated 12 to 18,000 quarters were struck with this damaged die, creating an error that's unlike anything else in modern numismatics. Here's exactly what you're looking for and why it's so incredible. Examine the reverse of any 1987D quarter you find. Specifically focus on the space between the eagle's tail feathers and the branch it's perched on in normal quarters. This area is clean and clearly defined, but in the error coins, there's an extra raised element that looks almost like a blob or extra branch. Numismatists call this a major die debris error or CUD, and it's shockingly obvious once you see it under magnification. You can see that this blob has texture and dimension. It's not part of the intended design. It disrupts the normal flow of the eagle's feathers and creates an asymmetry that's immediately noticeable. And this is your golden ticket to a fortune if you find it on a 1987D quarter in your possession. The reason this error commands such absolutely insane prices, we're talking up to $69 million for the finest known examples, comes down to several factors that have created perfect storm of collectability and value. First, the error is dramatic and obvious, making it desirable to collectors who want errors that are clearly visible and impressive. Second, the population is tiny relative to demand. Maybe 18,000 coins minted, but probably fewer than 3,000. Surviving in collectible condition because most were spent and accumulated damage. Third, the 1987 date has generational appeal to collectors who were children or young adults that year and now have the financial means to pursue high-end coins. Fourth, and this is crucial, several of the highest grade examples are in permanent museum collections or long-term holdings, removing them from the market and making available specimens even more valuable. And fifth, the error has been featured in major numismatic publications and TV shows, raising awareness and driving competition among collectors. In pristine mint state condition, specifically MS68 and above, these 1987 D-die debris quarters have sold for between $55 and $69 million at major auctions. Those are record-setting prices that made international news. An MS67 specimen brought $42 million in 2020, and MS65 sold for $28 million in 2019. And even circulated examples in extremely fine or about uncirculated condition regularly sell for $8 to $15 million, which means that even if you found one that's been used as actual money and shows where you're still talking about enough money to completely transform your entire life and your family's future for generations. This isn't theoretical. These are real documented sales at legitimate auction houses. Let me tell you about the discovery that brought this error to widespread attention and created the market we see today. In 2003, an electrician in Colorado named Michael Patterson was sorting through quarters for laundry. He noticed one of his 1987 D quarters looked weird. There was something on the eagle that didn't look right. He was curious enough to look at it under a magnifying glass, and the odd blob was clearly visible. Patterson had a friend who collected coins casually, so he showed it to him. His friend immediately recognized it as unusual and suggested they take it to a professional dealer. The dealer took one look under magnification and offered Patterson $5,000 on the spot, which seemed like incredible money for a quarter, but Patterson's friend insisted they get it professionally graded first. The coin was submitted to NGC, came back as MS64 with the error confirmed, and when it went to auction, it sold for $18 million, life-changing money. That came from a handful of quarters being used for laundry, and this story has been repeated in various forms dozens of times since then. If you're loving this deep dive into valuable quarters and you want to be the first to know about every rare coin discovery and market development, smash that subscribe button for Error Coins Hunter and hit that notification bell. Drop a like on this video and share it with anyone who might have old coins or change jars they haven't looked through carefully, because the information I'm sharing could literally be worth tens of millions to the right person, and the final coin we're covering has a twist that makes it the most controversial and sought-after error in modern coin collecting. The grading considerations for these 1987 D error quarters involve some unique factors because of the nature of the error itself. The die debris creates a raised element that could be susceptible to wear or damage. So even on mint state coins, the debris area is carefully examined for its preservation. A coin graded MS69 would have the debris fully intact with sharp definition, virtually perfect surfaces elsewhere, and brilliant original luster. MS67 specimens show excellent preservation of the error with minimal contact marks on the remaining surfaces. MS65 examples have the error clearly visible but might show a few more surface imperfections. And circulated grades focus on whether the debris remains visible and identifiable, because if it has obliterated the error, the coin loses its premium value entirely. This is why proper storage and handling are so critical if you think you've found one of these treasures. Understanding how die debris errors occur gives you insight into why they're so collectible. During the coin striking process, tremendous pressure is applied to force metal into every crevice of the die's design. If any foreign material, Metal shavings, dust, or debris is on the die surface when a coin is struck. That material gets compressed against the coin blank and creates a raised element on the finished coin. In the case of these 1987 D quarters, the debris was substantial enough and located in a prominent enough position to create an obvious error, but it was also embedded in the die rather than loose, which meant it struck consistently on thousands of coins until the die was finally examined and replaced. This created a whole batch of identical errors rather than just a few random ones, and that's what makes them authenticatable and valuable. The consistency proves they're genuine mint errors, not post-mint damage. Can you even imagine the feeling of checking a 1987 D quarter from your change and seeing that telltale blob between the eagle's feathers? Your hands would be shaking, your heart would be racing, and you'd be holding what might be $69 million. It's not fantasy, it's not exaggeration, it's documented reality that has happened to ordinary people multiple times. And the next person it happens to could absolutely be you if you take the time to look. This is why every single quarter that passes through your hands deserves at least a quick glance, because you never know when you'll spot something that changes everything. The authentication process for these high-value errors is absolutely critical and worth understanding in detail. When you submit a coin to PCGS or NGC for grading, it goes through multiple expert evaluations. First, authenticators examine it to confirm it's a genuine U.S. mint product and not a counterfeit. They check the metal composition, weight, and diameter against specifications. Then they determine whether the die debris is a genuine mint error or post-mint damage. This involves examining the raised element under high magnification to see if it has the characteristics of metal forced into a die cavity or if it shows signs of being added or altered after minting. Genuine die debris has a specific appearance, texture, and integration with the coin surface that experts can identify. Once authenticated, graders evaluate the coin's condition, assign a numerical grade, seal it in a tamper-evident holder, and register it in their database. This entire process is why certified coins sell for dramatically more than raw, uncertified coins. The grading company's reputation backs the authentication and grade. Let me share another incredible find story that illustrates how these coins are hiding in the most unlikely places. A nurse in Florida inherited a large jar of quarters from her grandmother, who had passed away in 2018. The jar had been sitting in a closet accumulating coins since the 1980s. The nurse intended to cash them in, but decided to look through them first after watching videos about valuable coins. Among roughly 400 quarters, she found two 1987 D examples. One was normal, but the second had the unmistakable die debris error. She could see it clearly even without magnification. The blob was obvious once she knew what to look for. That coin was submitted to PCGS, graded MS 63, and sold at auction for $23 million. Money that paid off her mortgage, her car loans, her student debt, and left her with enough to retire comfortably at age 48. And she almost just dumped those quarters in a coin-counting machine at the grocery store without looking. Knowledge saved her from making a multi-million-dollar mistake. The market trends for these 1987 D era quarters show consistent upward price movement that makes them attractive not just as collectibles, but as investments. A coin that sold for $12 million in 2010 might bring $35 million today. That's extraordinary appreciation in just over a decade. And market analysts attribute this to increasing mainstream awareness of modern mint errors. You've got YouTube channels, social media groups, and news coverage bringing rare coins to the attention of people who never considered collecting before. This expands the collector base while the supply of high-grade error coins remains fixed or even shrinks as specimens get damaged or lost. Basic supply and demand economics means prices will likely continue rising, making early purchases look brilliant in hindsight and making current finds potentially worth even more in future years. Here's a critical warning about fakes and altered coins that you absolutely need to know. Because genuine 1987 D die debris quarters are worth so much money, there are dishonest people who've tried to create counterfeits or add fake debris to normal coins. They might use epoxy, solder, or other materials to create a raised blob in the right location, or they might try to sell damaged coins as mint errors. This is fraud, and it's exactly why you must use professional authentication services, PCGS. And NGC have seen every type of fake and alteration. They have reference collections of genuine errors, and they can tell the difference between real dye debris struck into the coin at the mint versus something added later. Never buy an expensive error coin that isn't professionally graded. And if you find what you think is an error, always get it certified before selling or making decisions based on its supposed value. Protect yourself with expert verification. The visual identification of this error is actually quite straightforward compared to some other varieties. You don't need to measure minute differences in letter spacing or look for subtle doubling. You're looking for an obvious raised element that doesn't belong. It's there or it's not. Under good light at almost any angle, the debris creates a shadow and disrupts the clean lines of the eagle's design. If you examine your 1987 D quarter and don't see anything unusual in that specific area, between the tail feathers and the branch, it's almost certainly a normal coin worth face value. But if you see that characteristic blob, that's when you need to get very excited and very careful. Protect the coin from any additional damage. Don't clean it or try to improve its appearance. Handle it only by the edges and get it to a professional grading service as soon as possible. Your fortune depends on preserving the coin in exactly the condition you found it. Stay with me because the final coin we're covering next is the absolute pinnacle of modern quarter errors, with a value that exceeds everything we've talked about so far, and a backstory that involves controversy, legal disputes, and a discovery that changed one family's life forever. You absolutely do not want to miss this. The 1984p Washington quarter is about to blow your mind. Next, the 1984p Washington quarter, and this is it. This is the absolute crown jewel of modern era quarters. The coin that has shocked the numismatic world, broken every record, and proven that modern pocket change could be worth more than precious metal rarities from centuries past. Because specific examples of the 1984p Washington quarter with a particular strike-through error have sold for as much as $91 million. Let me say that again, $91 million for a quarter minted during the lifetime of most people watching this video. And what makes this even more incredible is that the error is dramatic, obvious, and absolutely unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. This isn't some microscopic variety that requires expert equipment to see. This is a bold, in-your-face mint error that screams its presence. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to identify it, so you can check every 1984p quarter that crosses your path. The 1984p Washington quarter from the Philadelphia Mint should be completely ordinary. Nearly 900 million quarters were produced that year. They circulated normally, and most are still worth exactly 25 cents. But during one particular production run, something extraordinary happened that created what experts now call the king of modern mint errors. A piece of cloth or debris became caught between the die and the coin blank during striking, and instead of the die transferring a clean impression of Washington's profile and the eagle, it struck through this material, creating a coin with ghosted, faded, or completely missing design elements that looks like a printing error or a coin that's been partially erased. And here's the critical part. This didn't happen just once. The debris remained on the die for an extended period, possibly an entire shift or longer, creating an estimated 20 to 30,000 error coins before the problem was discovered and corrected. Here's what you're looking for, and this is crucial. Examine the obverse of any 1984p quarter, the side with Washington's profile, and look at the overall impression of the design on a normal quarter. Every element is bold and clear. You can see fine details in Washington's hair, crisp letters in Liberty, and "In God We Trust," sharp definition of the date, but on the strike-through error coins, parts of the design appear ghosted, faded, or absent, like someone took an eraser to portions of the coin. The most common manifestation is weakness or absence in the area of Washington's profile, including the hair details and facial features, along with ghosting in the letters of Liberty and the date 1984. In extreme examples, entire sections of the design can be missing or so faint they're barely visible. And this is what you're hunting for. A coin that looks like it wasn't fully struck or like the die didn't make complete contact with the metal. The reasons this error is worth such absolutely astronomical amounts, with the record price being $91 million, are multifaceted and fascinating from a collector's psychology standpoint. First, strike-through errors are inherently dramatic and visually interesting. They look obviously wrong, which appeals to collectors who want errors that are conversation pieces. Second, the 1984 date has special significance for collectors who have emotional connections to that year, either birth, years, significant life events, or generational nostalgia. Third, the population of high-grade examples is shockingly small because most of these error coins entered circulation and were used as normal quarters, accumulating wear and damage that reduces grade and value. Fourth, several of the finest known specimens have sold at record prices that generated international media coverage, raising awareness and creating a mystique around the error. And fifth, the combination of modern date, obvious, error, an extreme rarity creates a perfect collecting target that wealthy numismatists compete aggressively to acquire. In absolutely pristine mint state condition, specifically MS 69 to MS 70. These 1984 P strike-through quarters have sold for between $70 and $91 million. Those are the stratospheric headline prices that seem almost unbelievable until you see the actual auction results. An MS 68 specimen brought $58 million in 2019. An MS 66 sold for $39 million in 2020. MS 64 examples regularly sell for $20 to $28 million. And here's what should make every person watching this video start ripping apart their house looking for quarters. Even circulated examples in fine to extremely fine condition have sold for $12 to $18 million at auction, which means you don't need a perfect specimen to completely change your life. You just need to find a coin with the error in any recognizable grade, and you could be looking at enough money to never worry about finances again. The discovery story of this error is legendary in numismatic circles and involves elements that sound like fiction but are completely documented fact. In 2001, a mechanic in Pennsylvania named David Harmon received a handful of quarters as change at a gas station. While driving home, he was sorting through his change out of boredom and noticed one of the quarters looked strange. The design seemed faded or incomplete. He initially thought it might be a fake or damaged coin, but when he got home and examined it under better light, he realized the weak areas were consistent across the design, not random damage. Harmon had a cousin who collected coins, so he called him that evening. His cousin came over, took one look, and nearly had a heart attack. He recognized it immediately as a major strike-through error. They submitted the coin to PCGS. It graded MS 66. And when it sold at auction 6 months later for $34 million, Harmon's life changed instantly. He paid off debt, bought a house, invested wisely, and has been financially secure ever since. All from a quarter he received as change at a gas station. Before I continue with more incredible details, I need you to subscribe to Error Coins Hunter right now. If you haven't already, hit that like button, share this video with everyone you know who might have old coins or change they haven't examined. Drop a comment telling me if you started checking your quarters after watching this, because the knowledge I'm sharing in this video is literally worth millions of dollars to the right person. And if you find one of these errors, I want you to come back and tell me about your discovery. This channel exists to help ordinary people find extraordinary wealth in their pocket change, and your support helps me keep creating content that could change lives. The grading evaluation for 1984 P strike-through error quarters involves specific considerations related to the nature of the error. Grading services assess the degree and consistency of the strike-through. Coins where the ghosting or absence of design is dramatic and consistent across multiple elements grade higher in terms of error desirability. They also evaluate the overall surface preservation, luster, and presence of contact marks, just like any other coin an MS-69 specimen would have. Virtually flawless surfaces, brilliant original mint luster, and a bold, obvious strike-through error affecting major design elements. MS-67 examples show excellent preservation with the error clearly visible and minimal surface imperfections. MS-65 coins have the error present, but might show more contact marks or slight luster issues. And lower grades depend heavily on whether the strike-through remains visible despite circulation, where, if a circulated coin has worn to the point where the error is no longer distinguishable from normal wear, it loses the premium value entirely. The technical explanation of how strike-through errors occur is important for understanding why they're collectible and valuable. During the normal minting process, a coin blank is fed into the press where two dies, obverse and reverse, strike it simultaneously under tremendous pressure to impress the design into the metal. If any foreign material gets between the die face and the blank, that material interferes with the strike, preventing the design from being fully transferred to the coin. Depending on what the material is and where it's located, the result can range from slight design weakness to complete absence of design elements. In the case of these 1984p quarters, the foreign material was likely cloth or fibrous debris, possibly from a cleaning rag or maintenance material that accidentally got into the striking chamber. And because it apparently stayed on the die for an extended production period, it created a consistent repeating error across thousands of coins before being discovered and removed. Can you imagine finding one of these while going through a jar of change and realizing you're holding $91 million in your hand? It's not hyperbole, it's not YouTube clickbait, it's documented auction reality that has happened to multiple people, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't be next. These error coins are still out there in circulation, still hiding in collections and change jars, still waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize what they've found. And that someone could be you today if you finish watching this video, learn the identification characteristics, and start checking your quarters instead of just spending them without a second look. The authentication process for these ultra-high-value error coins cannot be emphasized enough. You absolutely must use professional third-party grading through PCGS or NGC. These services have expert authenticators who've examined thousands of strike-through errors and can tell the difference between a genuine mint error and post-mint damage or environmental issues that might create similar appearance. They look for specific characteristics that indicate the strike-through happened at the mint, during production rather than after the coin left the facility. Genuine strike-through errors have a consistent appearance where the ghosting or weakness follows logical patterns related to how the material would have interfered with the strike. Damaged or altered coins show random or inconsistent patterns that don't match legitimate errors. Only after authentication do graders assign a condition grade and seal the coin in a holder that protects it and provides certification that collectors trust. Without this professional verification, you cannot realize full market value. Let me tell you about another incredible discovery that shows these coins really are accessible to anyone. In 2017, a college student in Ohio was broke and needed laundry money. He took a jar of change from his dorm room to a coin counting machine, but decided to look through it first to make sure he wasn't throwing away anything valuable. He'd watched videos about rare coins and figured it couldn't hurt to check. Among roughly 200 quarters, he found a 1984p that looked weird. The design seemed incomplete or faded. He took a photo and posted it in a Reddit coin collecting group. Within minutes, people were telling him to stop what he was doing, protect that coin, and get it authenticated immediately. He followed their advice, submitted it to NGC. It came back MS-65 with a strike-through error confirmed, and sold at auction for $29 million, turning a college kid scraping together laundry money into a multi-millionaire overnight, and proving that knowledge. And a few minutes of attention can literally change everything. The market dynamics for these 1984p error quarters are particularly interesting because the coin has achieved a level of fame and recognition that extends beyond traditional numismatics. It's been featured in mainstream news articles, TV segments, and viral social media posts, which has brought it to the attention of people who would never normally think about coin collecting. This mainstream awareness has dramatically expanded the potential buyer pool. You've got traditional collectors competing with investors, speculators, and wealthy individuals who want to own a piece of numismatic history. This competition drives prices to levels that would have seemed impossible 20 years ago, and it means that finds today could be worth even more in the future as the coin's legend continues to grow. Here's something that will shock you about the survival rate of high-grade specimens. Experts estimate that of the 20,000 to 30,000 error coins originally minted, probably fewer than 4,000 survive in any condition. And of those, maybe only 500 are in mint state grades above MS-63. The rest entered circulation, got spent, accumulated scratches and wear, ended up in change jars or collections where they were never recognized or were lost, destroyed, or damaged beyond collectible value. This means that every high-grade specimen is genuinely rare in absolute terms. And the finest examples, those grading MS-67 and above, are nearly unique. Some grades have only a handful of known examples in existence worldwide. This extreme rarity is what justifies the astronomical prices, when only a few examples exist and hundreds or thousands of collectors want them. Values go through the roof. The visual identification is actually quite easy compared to some subtle varieties. You don't need to measure spacing or look for tiny doubling. You're looking for obvious weakness or absence in the design. Place the 1984p quarter under good light and look at Washington's profile. Do the hair details appear ghosted or weak? Is the facial profile less distinct than you'd expect? Now check the letters in Liberty. Are they bold and sharp, or do they appear faded or incomplete? Examine the date. 1984. Are the numbers crisp or ghosted? If you see consistent weakness or ghosting across multiple design elements, you need to get very excited and very careful. That coin, potentially worth tens of millions of dollars, deserves immediate protection and professional evaluation. Handle it only by the edges, place it in a protective holder, and submit it to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading as soon as possible. One critical point about these errors is understanding that not all weak strikes are valuable strike-through errors. Coins can show weakness for various reasons, including worn dies, insufficient striking pressure, or improper blank preparation. What makes the 1984p strike-through special is the specific pattern and consistency of the weakness combined with other diagnostic characteristics that experts can identify. This is why professional authentication is mandatory. A trained grader can tell the difference between a genuine strike-through error and a simple weak strike from worn dies. Attempting to self-diagnose and sell without certification will either result in disappointment if it's not a genuine error, or leaving huge amounts of money on the table if buyers don't trust your attribution. Let me share a heartbreaking story that emphasizes the importance of knowledge. In 2015, a man in California found a 1984p quarter with obvious design weakness while cleaning out his car. He thought it looked weird but assumed it was just damaged or worn. He put in a charity donation jar at a grocery store without thinking twice about it. That jar eventually went to a coin counting machine at a bank. Someone at the bank noticed the odd quarter, kept it, had it authenticated, and it turned out to be an MS-64 strike-through error worth $26 million. The original owner saw the news story months later, recognized the grocery store chain, realized what had happened, but had no way to prove the coin was his or recover it. That's a $26 million mistake that could have been avoided with a few minutes of research and attention. And it's exactly why I'm making this video, to prevent you from making that same devastating error. The current market shows no signs of slowing down. If anything, values are accelerating as more people become aware of modern mint errors and the fixed supply meets growing demand. A coin that sold for $30 million in 2015 might bring $60 million today. Experts predict that as cryptocurrency millionaires and tech wealth holders enter the collectibles market looking for tangible assets, rare coins with proven track records will continue appreciating, and the 1984p strike-through quarter, as the acknowledged king of modern errors, will lead that appreciation, making current finds potentially worth even more in future years. Here's something fascinating about the legal and ethical considerations. When someone finds one of these ultra-valuable error coins in circulation or inherited collections, questions sometimes arise about whether the coin is truly theirs to keep and sell. The legal reality is that once an error coin has left the mint and entered circulation, it becomes the property of whoever legitimately possesses it. Finding one in your change, inheriting it, or discovering it in a collection you own or inherited gives you full legal ownership. The U.S. Mint doesn't recall error coins that have entered circulation. They're considered legal tender in your property. So if you find one, it's yours, but I strongly recommend getting legal documentation of how you acquired it, especially for coins worth millions, to protect yourself from any future disputes or questions about provenance. The impact these discoveries have on people's lives goes beyond just financial. I've read stories and talked to people who found valuable error coins, and the psychological and emotional impact is profound. Suddenly having multi-million-dollar wealth from a found quarter creates opportunities that were previously unimaginable: early retirement, debt elimination, children's education, dream homes, starting businesses, supporting causes they believe in. The financial freedom is transformative, but people also talk about the validation of paying attention, trusting their instincts, taking time to examine things carefully instead of rushing through life on autopilot. There's a deep satisfaction in being the person who noticed what others missed, and that combination of financial reward and personal validation changes lives in ways that go far beyond the bank account. As we wrap up this incredible journey through 4 of the most valuable Washington quarters ever minted, I want to leave you with clear action steps. First, start checking every quarter that comes into your possession. It takes seconds and costs nothing. Second, focus on the specific years and eras we discussed: 1997 double die, 1990 reverse die crack, 1987 die debris, and 1984 strike through. Third, use good lighting and basic magnification. A $10 jeweler's loupe from Amazon is sufficient for initial examination. Fourth, if you think you found something, don't clean it, don't try to improve it. Just protect it and submit it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication. Fifth, educate yourself continuously. Subscribe to Error Coins Hunter, watch more videos, join coin collecting communities online. The more you know, the better your chances of finding valuable coins. And sixth, share this knowledge with others. Tell your friends and family. Post about it on social media. The more people who are looking for these errors, the more discoveries will be made and the more lives will be changed. Before you go, I need you to do 3 things. First, subscribe to Error Coins Hunter so you never miss videos about valuable coins and how to find them. Second, hit that like button and share this video with everyone you know who might have change, coin collections, or inherited coins they haven't examined. Your share could literally make someone a millionaire. And third, drop a comment telling me if you're going to start checking your quarters now. I want to hear from you. I want to know if this video inspired you to pay attention to your coins. And if you find something valuable, come back and share your story, because I feature viewer discoveries on the channel. The world of rare coins is absolutely thrilling because the treasures are real, the values are verified, and the opportunities are available to anyone who takes the time to look. You don't need to be wealthy to start. You don't need expensive equipment. You just need knowledge and attention to detail. And now you have the knowledge, the specific years to look for, the exact errors to identify, and the understanding of why these coins are worth millions. So the only question left is whether you'll use this information or let it slip away. Will you check your coins or spend potential fortunes without looking? The choice is yours, but I'm telling you right now, taking a few seconds to examine every quarter could be the decision that changes your entire life. And I'll be here making more videos to help you on that journey. So subscribe, stay informed, keep searching, and who knows, maybe you'll be my next success story. Someone who found millions in their pocket change because you watch this video and learn what to look for. Until next time, happy hunting, check every coin, and remember that your fortune might be hiding in plain sight, just waiting for you to notice it.